If you have one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just, yeah. I don't even know if she's going to call me. So I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
Hello, y'all. I'm going live just for the moment. Blonde hair, don't care.
3, 2.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Hanging Out with the Carters. Denise Carter, your host, and my co host is missing. Yeah, he went to the airport, but it's okay. We needed him to go to the airport, and it's exciting that he did because it's a surprise. I can't tell it, but we're excited that he's not here today because then I get to hog the mic. That's what's happening. Anyway, I'm so excited. This is our 34th episode, and I'm just excited that we got to 34. Can you believe we got to 34 and people are still listening? Like, I'm so geeked about it. I'm live on, kind of streaming on YouTube just because I'm working on that too. Because, I'm just doing my own thing. But so I just wanted to remind everybody that I really want to say thank you for those who came out to last week's comedy show. It was truly amazing. We had over 200 guests on a Thursday. It was awesome. And my breakout young comedian, Ira Renee, just showed out and showed up. She's already got booked on two different, at 11, she got booked on two different shows. Guess what she got booked on? A youth um, a youth conference in Camarillo. She's getting booked on in May, and then in April she's getting booked on the guidance forum, the youth guidance forum at Northridge. So I'm extremely excited for her. And then, of course, my daughter's calling in, and I texted her to let her know that there's a message and let me know when she wants to come in. But I just wanted her to know that I want to make sure she's still up for doing this podcast with me, but I don't know if she is or not. Yep. And she's in my ear, and I'm going to keep on talking. But there's, oh, you don't have to do it right now. Don't worry. I'm just live here, girl. I'm just live here. We're not ready for you, though. You let me know what's a good time for you. Okay. All right. Well, that's fine. That's fine. This is my podcast. It's fine. He's watched a many of them and been part of them. So you want to grab him and then call in? Okay. Text me when you're ready. All right. Thanks. Goodbye. All right. I just had to take a minute break because not all. Yeah, I got millennials, y'all. This is what's happening. Anyway, I'm super excited about my guest this today and my surprise guest today. But I want to talk about last week's guest. Her name was Heather Bortello. She's part of the mafia. No, not really, not really. Anyway, she actually works for Bright Star Home Care, and we were so grateful that she blessed us with her presence. And just, with women in business today, I want to give a shout out because it's International Women's Day is coming up on Saturday. And so I just wanted to say, shout out to Heather. Thanks for joining us in the podcast. Shout out to all the women of all nationalities. We are here for you. And let's just keep on saying hello in many languages. We'll start that tomorrow. Anyway, my guest today is the none other than an amazing person. And I don't want to mess up his name because I was supposed to practice it. And I want to say it's Bharat
Right.
Rai. Bharat Rai. Ladies and gentlemen, I want a hand of applause to my guest today. He is none other than the founder of Ethos Health, Bharat Rai. Did I mess it up?
No, thank you so much, Denise, for the opportunity. Thank you for bringing me on the podcast. Very excited to be here and share some of the insights that I've learned in building and now growing Ethos.
Well, I'm so excited about what you're doing with Ethos. But the first thing I want to know is tell us a little bit about you so people know where you're from and just a little bit about you.
For sure. So, my name is Bharat Rai. I'm the founder and CEO of Ethos. Born and raised here in Southern California, Camarillo, Ventura County native. Um, my story really comes, as you know, actually, my mom,
Mhm.
Rajinder, I come from a family of pharmacists, and I come from a family of very ambitious and entrepreneurial pharmacists. So my story really started when growing up, I grew up in the back of my parents' pharmacy, seeing my parents work day in, day out. And I think at that time, at that age, it was maybe information that was gained a little bit more passively. But by the time I was coming of age in college, preparing for medical school, I was originally on the pre med track. But something occurred to me, I think, during that gap year for medical school.
Mhm.
I had this opportunity to join this master's program at USC for translational biotechnology. And
Okay, wait. Say that one more time.
yeah. So during my gap year, I joined this program at USC for translational biotechnology.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big word. If you chop that down, translation, I get that.
Yeah.
Bio, I kind of get that.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So basically, translational biotechnology is like taking research concepts. So you would say from bench to bedside. So it's really this practice of clinical innovation, if you really want to think of it that way. So typically for biotechnology, you're looking at therapeutics, like protein therapeutics right now. Genomic therapeutics is all the rage. But where my mind and then my heart and passion ended up moving a little bit closer to was more towards bioinformatics.
What exactly is bioinformatics?
Yeah. And so that is this study of maybe more from the computational side. You're studying genes and structures, essentially decoding DNA, if you want to think of it like that.
Wow.
More from a software lens, data science lens.
Wow. Just listening to you talk, I'm totally impressed. And I'm wondering if I should be on this podcast with you. I'm gonna be asking I need some, you know what I need? I need a dictionary. But go ahead.
Well, for me, it was really eye-opening, I think, for a lot of the maybe the professional goals and aspirations that I had. I always knew I wanted to enter the healthcare space and industry just like my parents did. But I think that entrepreneurial bug hit in around that point because when I saw the opportunities that technology can have to really advance our healthcare system, to drive more accessibility and data driven interventions, I knew that this was something that I wanted to really study more about and understand what applications can be had to advance healthcare and really the way that people live.
So were you doing this when you were in Santa Barbara?
When I was in school, I was surrounded by a lot of like-minded peers. I would say my professors as well were maybe not your typical professors. They were like these industry professionals that have been kind of been there, done that in this space of, again, like maybe more clinical innovation. And so I would say they really nurtured my mind to think outside of the box. And for me, that was something that my soul really needed, I think.
Wow.
And that was really the genesis, I think, of Ethos, is really in those moments where I could see and be around people with a lot of experience, taking ideas and putting them into practice.
Now, tell me, how does it feel to be the founder and the CEO of your own organization where we are right now, 2025, and you look pretty young. So how does that feel? Like, just stay with me for a minute. How does that feel? Because that's got to be a gratifying feeling.
It's been a journey for sure. And that's really why I started with, talking about my parents, because I think I was almost, groomed for something like this. It's kind of just what I've known is, when you have a passion or an idea or a dream for what you want to accomplish, it was almost second nature to me to just go after it. And I really express a lot of gratitude and inspiration to my parents, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that raised me, obviously. And being surrounded by them my entire life, this is just what I feel like is my calling and my purpose. So
wow,
to me,
fantastic.
it's just, being able to continue forward.
I wrote down some buzzwords: passion, dream, innovation, opportunity. Those words right there, they speak to me and they speak to the audience, because I want to see what that did to you to bring you to Ethos Health.
Yeah, actually, that's a great question, because for me, I would say, going back to when I was on this path for medical school, I would say my first 2 years in undergrad, I really did feel like a shell of myself. It felt to a certain degree that what I was doing was not aligning towards maybe what you'd say is like my purpose at that time. and there was this light or that this spark that I could feel in me, but I knew it wasn't necessarily getting ignited. And I think it was around my junior year where I joined this research lab, and I think that was this opportunity where um, being able to push on our current understanding of things with research, you're always looking to publish some new paper and find some novel finding in your respective space. And for me, it felt very new and it felt very innovative, and it felt like we were stretching the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
Mm.
And when I was in this lab, I felt that spark start to get ignited. And I really can't describe it, I think, in too many words, but it's much more of a feeling. And what I came to realize over time is that was something within me, my gut, maybe my intuition. And when I started to listen to that more, that's when things started to align properly. And I've really stayed true to that message, I think, till now.
Well, I think that's great. So you want to kind of give us an idea of what sparked that and what it became. What
Right.
did you birth from that?
Right. So going back to this, maybe these first 2 years where I didn't necessarily feel myself, uh, this feeling, this spark, what I realized was this opportunity to grow, the opportunity to change myself, my behavior, the way that I think.
Mm.
And once I was towards the end of this master's program, when I was trying to figure out what do I want to do for the rest of my life, what I realized is, I've grown so much since this time of like finding this initial spark to having it nurtured in this program. And I really want to be able to share this opportunity for individuals across different domains, walks of life, to find that spark inside themselves.
Hmm.
And for me, so I'm a Punjabi American, so it's like a northern state of India, and specifically alcohol is part of our identity, to loosely put it. And so I've seen substance use kind of trifle our community firsthand, and the impact it doesn't just have on the individual struggling, but the families and the greater parts of the community.
Mm.
And what I came to realize is whether it's substance misuse or what I think is maybe more broadly self-destructive behaviors or self-destructive and self-limiting mindsets and beliefs, what we're really talking about to overcome them is change. And change starts within yourself, and it starts in maybe the most deepest corners and wedges that reside within us. And that's what I really knew I wanted to be able to do with Ethos, is to help individuals introspect and understand and build that self-awareness first within themselves, to then be able to share with those around them. Because that's why I believe allows us to break from a lot of patterns and cycles of belief and behavior. And so that's the angle that I wanted to share with the world.
So you're listening to Hanging Out with the Carters, Denise Carter, and my guest Bharat, and he is the owner, founder, CEO of ethoshealth.io. Let me tell you guys, this young man is so just full of knowledge. I'm over here soaking it up. Hang in there with me, y'all. We're going to learn something, because he just started talking about something that I'm understanding to be behaviors and self-destructive behaviors, something that I've been observing in some of my own family members. And I'm just eager to find out more so that we can help one another if we can, if they're willing to own their behaviors, I'm assuming. But go ahead.
No, for sure. And so, I mean, if I really introspect and look back at even my own journey, maybe not necessarily substance misuse was something that I was struggling with, but I struggled a lot with self-limiting beliefs and self-destructive patterns of behavior.
Mm.
And what I really love about entrepreneurship and starting something is it's going to make you grow, whether you're ready for it or not, and whether you know which lessons you're about to learn or not. If you want to go to the next stage, you're about to learn.
Right.
And I have been very fortunate, and I'm very grateful for a lot of people that have helped shape and chisel me along the way. And there's one individual in particular that I think of when thinking about this. He's a sales coach of mine for the last year. And he's always impounded in my brain, there's 4 requisites of change. And the first starts with releasing baggage.
Mm.
Once you release baggage, you set a goal. And once you set a goal, you take massive action. And once you take massive action, you maintain that focus. And what
Ooh.
ends up happening is you are on a path, a trajectory of growth. It's exponential. And what I came to realize this last year, I'll be quite honest, it was pretty difficult. It was tumultuous. As a startup is, it's up and down, but it was a lot of growth. And what I realized is, you know, when you're releasing baggage, there's things that come up daily, and it's these smallest triggers that you don't even know are affecting you. But once you open your mind and have that aspiration to be something that you're not today, what you realize is you are that person.
Mm.
And it's actually the process of letting
Wow.
go of parts of yourself to allow the person that you already are to fully express. And that, I think, is something that allowed me to break through a lot of barriers, and especially with individuals struggling with substance and alcohol in particular. I think that's something that we really want to be able to cultivate through our platform, to be able to express that everything that you need for the person that you truly are is already there within you. It's
Wow.
really a question of who do you need to let go of, what
Mm.
stories and beliefs you need to let go of to let that person come through.
Do you feel like along this path that you've been on, there were friends maybe that you had to let go in the process of, because I can imagine being in college, going to the next level, going to the next level, and then starting something. There had to be individuals that you started with that you had to let go. And there were reasons behind that.
It
And how did that make you feel?
Oh man, so I'd say initially, right? Like it's pretty hard. I'm someone that, like, I love to love, and the people that are around me are my motivation.
Hmm.
And what ends up happening, I think, for sure over time, is that there are certain people that may not necessarily share the same goals or aspirations, or are on that same trajectory of growth that you have for yourself. And it absolutely happens. There's been so many friends and even certain degree family members and professional mentors that started on this journey with me, and I had to let go of. And it's what I came to realize is it's really part of the process, and sometimes it's God giving you this uh, this blessing, that there's always lessons to be learned in
Mm.
every walk of your life. And people and the experiences never change when you hold a lot of space and gratitude and appreciation for the lessons that you learned along the way. But what I also realize is once one door closes, three more open up.
Wow.
And once you open your mind up to that, it's a lot of opportunities, a lot of great experiences there on the other side. And that is the hardest part, at least for me, is being able to let go. But the sooner that you feel at ease with that and letting go of control and surrendering,
Mm.
uh, everything that you want ends up start coming to you.
Did fear ever play a part in the the I don't want to say the letting go part, but even in the growth or the birth of what you were doing?
So much fear,
Ugh.
like it's almost incomprehensible. And so at a certain point, you kind of have these peaks and these valleys.
Mm.
Again, specifically with startups, I would say. And there's periods of time when it's just you by yourself, and it's like, is this thing really going to work? And and it's you against yourself. And when you look at yourself in the mirror, there is a lot of different angles that you look at yourself with, and there is a lot of fear that's kind of there. And for me, it took some time, and it took a lot of, I think the more that you throw yourself out there and the more you put yourself in uncomfortable situations, the more you just become increasingly more comfortable with the uncomfort. And that's what I think really changed my perspective, because I really don't have anything to lose, but I have everything to gain.
Wow. So now those people that you had to let go, hypothetically, have I'm assuming they've seen your growth because they were part of what you were uh, going after, right? Have they reached out to try to be part of what this amazing journey that you're on?
It comes in different ways, shapes, and forms for
Hmm.
sure. And what I realized is that I used to hold a lot of weight, and I'd say a lot of weight to like the relationships that I had.
Mm.
And I think I almost, to a certain point, maybe overgave a lot of myself and put a lot of emphasis externally. But when I internalized my locus of control and realized, like, I am like the person in control of my destiny, my journey, my path, people would start gravitating back to me, but I looked at it from a different lens.
Mm.
I didn't hold so much weight to a lot of people that, I had to necessarily let go of. It's that, hey, I looked at things from a more objective lens as opposed to being, too attached to any
No,
situation.
you know what? I totally get it. It's even when I started this podcast, the focus was I want to start a podcast. Well, why? Because I want to ask questions. I want to know things, and I thought hanging out with the Carters would be a great title. But Wills don't like to hang out with me as much. Yeah, that really is not a joke. But he likes to hang out when he wants to hang out. But you know, I like to ask questions and I'm always trying to find out. But he's starting to get used to it. So I think it's good for both of us because he doesn't really like to talk and I like to talk and we're just kind of having fun with this. And I'm so grateful that you decided to hang out with the Carters, even though one of them is missing, but we ain't gonna worry about that. But just getting back to what you're saying, um, I want to know more about Ethos because I feel like I have a family member that I'd like to share more of what you're doing and how it could possibly help her where she is. So let's just dive in and tell me
For
about
sure.
what Ethos Health is all about.
Absolutely. So Ethos Health is an addiction management platform that's focused on alcohol treatment. And
Mm,
so our vision is to identify alcohol associated diseases earlier to get the right people to the right treatment at the right time. And so how all of this really started is that, look, we knew that we're tackling the we knew that we are tackling this very long-standing issue, and it's normalized in society to be consuming heavy amounts of alcohol. It's been around for thousands of years, part of religious ceremonies even, and everyone drinks. I
yeah.
mean, people drink when they're happy, people drink when they're sad, people drink when they're rich, people drink when they're poor. It's like this is a very widespread substance that's readily available, and so for us, we knew it was going to be very important to be able to tackle this from a very individually centric way. And so we started our platform as this mobile application uh, to help really build awareness for individuals.
Mm,
So sometimes just by seeing what you're doing and having a track or a record really gives you that visibility and insight into your own life and what's basically coming out of it. So we started Ethos as this direct to consumer platform. We marketed it through social media and through a lot of this organic social media reach through TikTok. My sisters actually, got us to blow up a couple of times. We got all this traction onto the platform where people were using it to basically track their alcohol consumption. We were able to give them some different tips and insights into, what this amount of alcohol was doing to them. They were able to set goals so that they were able to establish, this is what I'm currently at, and this is where I want to reduce my alcohol consumption to. So we were taking much more of the social drinker consumer lens.
mm,
But what we saw was of these like thousands of users that were using the platform, what we did was we put this one clinical screening tool on the app so that we would basically be able to measure from more of a clinical perspective, how much are our average users actually consuming in terms of alcohol and what does it mean for their actual health.
mhm,
Because for us, we knew that in order to actually establish a more standardized way of dealing with alcohol consumption, it was going to be very important for us to enter the healthcare system. Right now, we've got things like dry January or sober October just to get people to kind of reduce their drinking, but that's more of a fad. And what we know is that alcohol is very chronic. Uh, First of all, it's a chronic disease in of itself,
mhm.
excessive alcohol consumption. And it exacerbates a number of chronic disease states. So we needed a solution that was going to have a lot of longevity to it. And so what we saw is of these thousands of users, their average screening score for alcohol consumption was consistent with alcohol misuse, almost at the cusp of alcohol dependence. And these individuals were showing early signs of liver damage.
Mm.
And so we knew at that point we needed to enter health systems to bring a solution where more intervention could be enabled once risk was identified.
Damn.
Yeah. And
So, when you said, I wrote a note about misuse versus dependency. How does one figure out if they're misusing? Because I figured in my life, and I stopped drinking 2.5 years ago because I wanted more going into the next phase of my life, right? I want to do comedy. I want to do acting. I want to do podcasting. There's a lot of things I want to do. Drinking alcohol the way I was drinking it and being overweight, I felt like I couldn't accomplish all those things because there were too many things in the way. But misuse versus dependency is a word that I've been hearing a lot lately, just with my own family members. And how do you know if you're misusing or you're dependent? Well, I think I figured it out a little bit out. I figured it out a little bit. Can you speak to the misuse versus the dependency?
Well, I'll start by saying this: like, we really don't know how much is too much, and the only way we really gauge it is when something bad happens. And the reality is that everyone is different, right? Everyone has different tolerance. So, like liver enzyme count, for example, was one way to measure. But if we're looking at it more from a clinical perspective, the DSM-5 criteria upon diagnosis from a psychiatrist is going to give you alcohol use disorder. But what leads someone to actually go visit their psychiatrist, knowing that they have a problem that they need to go get checked, that's where the lines really start getting blurred. And that's something that's actually exactly what we're trying to do right now with Ethos.
So are you working with psychiatrists as well?
So in 2024, when we knew that we wanted to enter the health system space, we actually entered this interesting collaboration with the Mayo Clinic, based in Rochester. And so what's very interesting about the Mayo Clinic is they've developed this program where they've essentially made their last 5 years of EHR data available, de-identified, for companies to come in that are interested in data science, to essentially develop novel machine learning and AI algorithms to develop novel solutions for clinical practice.
Wow.
And so it was our goal to then differentiate, what actually leads individuals to the path of dependence and how can we identify it earlier on so we can get this group of individuals that are on the trajectory of dependence into treatment that is right for them, that they will actually adopt and use, so that we can stop the patterns of addiction before they really get too severe.
Do you think there's a pattern with depression? And I'm just curious because when you think about psychiatry, depression and I'm gonna just stop at depression because I've got all these thoughts in my head, but depression is kind of like correlated with that.
Oh, absolutely. That's something I can speak quite extensively to some of the insights that we found. And so I'll start by saying, I think the thing that our team finds really interesting about measuring excessive alcohol consumption is that it really serves as this window into the body. Because what we know is excessive alcohol consumption, when you measure it, if you travel upstream, you can get a lens into the mind. And when you go downstream, you're going to get a window into someone's overall health. Because obviously, as the more that you drink, it's a behavior. It's going to affect different parts of your body. Specifically, what we're focused on is measuring its impact on the liver. But when you go and really ask the question, why is someone consuming alcohol? There's a number of different mental, psychiatric comorbidities and symptomologies that we can identify that are indicative of anxiety, depression, PTSD. And that's actually exactly what we're finding. Very interestingly, one of the insights that our team has found is there's a lot of key predictors that will determine if someone's going to excessively consume alcohol in a short-term binge drinking session or for a sustained period of time. One that's very interesting is a family history of alcohol use disorder. The second is home environment. And so these are things that are captured in our health systems, I might add disparately, and maybe not as standardized as now we're realizing maybe they should. And that these are the level of insights that we want to provide not just to patients now, but also to physicians and care teams, administrators of health systems, to understand that what you can maybe more loosely say social determinants of health can be key predictors to know if someone's going to have sustained excessive alcohol consumption. And we can track and identify what does that mean for their overall health. What we're really focused on right now is then going all the way downstream to liver disease. And in fact, we've developed this model to predict at the time of transplant, liver transplant, if individuals are going to return to heavy drinking post-transplant. And so we're really interested in mapping, from psychiatric level comorbidities down to end stage liver disease, like what is alcohol's effect across the board?
Wow. Because I know some folks that have had liver transplants, and I was under the impression you can't drink anymore, right? However, they might have a glass of wine. I don't really know. But my thought is, from your professional opinion, would you think that someone who had a liver transplant should never drink again?
There's a number of different schools of thought now, actually. And so one of the key principles for us is, we understand that abstinence is a very aspirational and hard goal to achieve in a lot of instances. And so there, in the case of transplant specifically, there is even a little bit of alcohol that you can technically consume. What we're really focused on is what are those patterns of behavior that are indicative of addiction, of sustained heavy drinking. The reason why we got there in the first place. And that's really what we want to correct, because when we're at the point of dependence or just heavy, excessive alcohol consumption, more of a chronic setting, that's when we know that we're really starting to have a problem, because oftentimes that's when the behavior is out of the individual's control, at least the perception of their control. And that's really what we want to be able to do with Ethos and a lot of the partners that we're developing now, is to help people realize that the control is within themselves, and to internalize that locus of control again, not keep it external.
So it's interesting. I think about my drinking days, and I can only say that I started drinking early. My mom had a nervous breakdown, was in Camero State Hospital, and so we didn't have a lot of guidance because my father was at work. But I ended up having a kid at 15. I somehow ended up with a fake ID, and I used to buy all the alcohol for everybody. And I think I was like 17, 18, was going to the club because I grew up fast. It was fun, right? And I think that's where it starts. It starts off being fun until it's not. And then you wake up, you got a hangover, you got to drink another drink just to get back into the swing of things. Because I remember we would actually get drunk the next day, like, oh my God, I need some Kentucky Fried Chicken, some mashed potatoes, and a hot pepper, a Diet Coke, bring myself back, and then a cold beer. And then I was back to normal.
Right.
Not realizing what I was actually doing to my body. And now that I think about it, now just listening to what you're saying, I've been writing notes. I was like, oh God, that was me. I think I had alcohol dependency. I would binge drink on the weekends. We'd start a happy hour on a Friday, and we'd stay happy till like Sunday afternoon. And like start work again. But I don't think we were really alcoholics. But now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know what we were. But I mean, I think we were just coping with the day to day. And just thinking about what you guys are doing is just like phenomenal. You're on the cusp of something. It hits every family. Someone in every family has that drunk person, whether it's an uncle, an aunt, a niece, a cousin, a daughter. I have a personal story with my own family member. My daughter, she's an alcoholic, and she's going to call in, and she hasn't heard this part of the show, but I'm excited to be able to share your knowledge, because that's where she's at right now. She is now sober today. And I'm thankful, because I experienced some things that I had no idea. And she wasn't sharing that with us. And one day we saw it for ourselves, and it was heartbreaking. And when you see that up close, it is probably the ugliest thing you want to see. And my husband and I we didn't know what to do, but we took her to the hospital. And I'm grateful for Cottage Hospital. Thank you so much for giving us some insight in what was going on with her, because I had no idea.
Well, I think to that point, a lot of times that information piece, like that visibility, that awareness, like we don't know what we're doing to ourselves for a long, sustained period of time, because at a certain point it becomes second nature. And I think that's what, again, even for us, what we really want to be able to do is through our platform is really just provide these insights. At the end of the day, our health is our own. And I think being able to decipher all these patterns of behavior, patterns of thought, and what it's doing to our body is our information that we have a responsibility to, but maybe don't necessarily have the access to information of. And that's really all I think that we want to be able to accomplish, is to be able to decode, going back to this whole bioinformatics side. That's where I get a lot of synchronicity in some of the work that we're doing now, is that, all the information that we need, we have, and we just need a way to be able to express it. And there's a lot of tools and technology now that's able to help us do that. And I think oftentimes what we just need to know is we need to have these signals of, we're able to measure our heart rate right now. We're able to measure our breathing, our sleep, hours of sleep. And we don't necessarily right now have many ways to measure our behaviors. And oftentimes a lot of them become second nature, so we don't think much about it. But if we start developing the tools and the awareness of what we're doing on a day to day, that becomes second nature and second hand, I think we will develop the ability to start changing it for the ways that we want.
I think that's interesting because I think most people, when they start to drink, their behaviors start to change. They become, for lack of a better way, loosey goosey, and anything goes, you know. And when you wake up, you have the walk of shame or regret. And I think that's what's important to me for the listeners that are listening. I hope you understand why we are sitting here with ethoshealth.ai. I think if you have not, there's a app that will probably educate you on more of what Bharat is saying. And this is so fascinating. You guys have no idea. I don't know if there's anybody out there listening, but let me tell you, he is on to something. I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna be quiet because I'm sitting over here thinking I done wrote uncomfortable. I wrote self-destruction, growth. I release the baggage is my favorite term that you said today because I was writing it down. And then it goes back to just having insight and awareness, and the fact that you're bringing to this. I don't think anybody's talking about it. And there's all kinds of, first it was the wine tasting that I would go to, and then it was tequila tasting. Now it's whiskey. Everybody's drinking. And so do you think what you're doing is going to benefit our communities?
Absolutely. I mean, again, I think when we look about like the lived environment, the built environment that we're surrounded by, like alcohol specifically is so normalized. And for us specifically at Ethos, we're not saying to just completely cut it out if that's not what you're trying to do, but just be aware and understand like how much is going to be too much specifically for you. Because that is really where the lines get very blurred. And that's where a lot of bad things can happen pretty fast if we don't keep our attention to it. And so I think the ability to be more mindful and more conscious and aware of who we are, the decisions that we're making, like I always try and internalize it back to even like my own journey is like, it's always it's a trajectory of growth. And I think there's always opportunity to learn and to improve in whatever discipline of life you're looking at, whether it's, your career, your health, your relationships, your family. There's always opportunities for growth if we're open to grow and to learn and to move forward. And absolutely, I think our communities can always improve, and we have the opportunity to do it. And so I'm very excited to be able to share any insights that I can.
I'm super stoked. I'm super stoked. I don't know what that was, but so fun fact. What do you like to do? Like, just because I'm just listening to you, just like overwhelmed with just your knowledge. What do you do for fun? Besides study.
Yeah, I'd say like
Research.
These last 3 months, I don't know if there's been like that much fun, but I mean, I love to play basketball. Actually, that's like growing up. I was this height in 8th grade. I mean, like if I kept growing, like my sights were set on the NBA. Like every brown guy's dream. No, but I love playing basketball. The friends that I have right now, like I love, just being able to hang out. Like usually it gets pretty intense during the week, when you're trying to, develop whatever opportunities are in front of you. And so I usually like to just pretty much chill with my family. I love my dog. So I've actually gotten
into
it.
What kind of dog do you have?
He's a rescue puppy. So we're not.
Okay. So we're going to take a break and we're going to go ahead and bring her in. We're going to keep it moving.
Okay.
And so I'm super excited. I'm super excited to bring in a special guest that's coming into this podcast. She is near and dear to my heart. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Cynthia Griffin to the Hanging Out with the Carter show. We are here with Bharat Rai, and he is the owner, CEO, and founder of ethoshealth.oi. Did I get it right? IO. I'm going to look it up.
Say it one more time. Ethoshealth.
Ethoshealth.io. Did I get it right? Okay. Yep. We're going to get it right. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring in our special guest coming to the platform. Ladies and gentlemen, I have Cynthia Griffin. Hello. Barat.
Nice to
Yes.
meet you, Cynthia.
So Barat and I have had an amazing conversation, Cynthia. He is explaining to me about um, alcohol dependency and misuse. And he's got this I mean, just amazing. I can't wait for you to listen to this whole entire episode, but I wanted to kind of let him share a little bit about what alcohol, um, in just, sum it up, what alcohol, what you've discovered in your research and why you decided to start this business about alcohol to Cynthia. And then she can share a little bit of her story about what alcohol has done in her life.
Absolutely. So, to really sum it up, our goal is to be able to help individuals become more aware of their relationship with alcohol. What we know is that there's a lot of reasons as to why people drink, and there's a lot of harmful effects that happen when you drink too much. So, our goal has been to measure the different effects that alcohol has on our mind and on our body. And so, some of the insights that I was sharing is, some of the reasons as to why we drink, some of the psychological patterns that lead us to consume alcohol or to cope with a particular substance, things like stress, anxiety, different symptoms that may come up, and then the different effects that alcohol has. And for us, we're specifically focused on measuring its impact on the liver.
Isn't that something? Isn't that something? No, that's okay. She's got a 5-year-old. You go ahead. And what's interesting, Cynthia, some of the things that he said, because I wrote it down. He said self destructions. Um, he talked about anxiety and depression. He talked about insight, awareness. He talked about you know the history. Uh, we start off having a good time, and then uh, we become happy, right? And then there becomes the misuse and the dependency. And when he was talking about some of these things, I was just fascinated because he himself in college, having friends that he was on a journey with to develop this wonderful, amazing business that he was doing. Some people he had to let go along the way. And it's interesting when you start to think about history, right? It sometimes repeats itself. I think in my own life, as you were growing up, my friends, we did happy hour all the time. And so one day you and I were having a very uncomfortable discussion. And one of the things you said was the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I will never forget it. And I took it to the point where I was like, well, no, and it's okay. what I'm saying to say is that I looked at my own behavior and where I was as you were growing up, not realizing that probably some things that I was doing, probably it's, you would repeat the behavior because birds of the feather like flock together, right? It's kind of sort of where, like, if we would go to happy hour, why wouldn't you go to happy hour with your friends? It's the next thing. But now I'm starting to see more and more people have decided, I don't want to drink anymore. I want to go to a mocktail. Why? Why are they doing that, Barat? Can you just like give me the scientific of what you've been studying and why you came up with this is impactful and it's going to affect many people going forward because I think people aren't aware. And that's what I think. And I think that when you talked about behaviors, the behaviors in which when you're in a blackout, you don't remember anything, but when you come to, you're like, oh my God, what happened? So can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think definitely two things to address there. But one, typically what we see with some of the cultural like excessive alcohol consumption in particular, is something that typically follows a lot of cultural norms. So right now, for example, we're seeing a lot of movement towards mocktails or non-alcoholic beverages. There's a movement, what's called sober curious, where people are really starting to re-examine the implications that a lot of alcohol can have on their bodies. I think, one of the things that we saw, thinking again culturally, is that ever since the pandemic, there was this huge spike in excessive alcohol consumption that we saw. And but people were becoming more health conscious as a result of a lot of the things that were happening at that time. And so people started really question a lot of their relationships that they had with substance in particular, things that they were with their behaviors, their level of activity, things of that sort. And so we've seen this shift of behavior as I think we're becoming increasingly more aware of the implications that certain behaviors have on our health. That's definitely one thing. Looking from a research side, one thing that you brought up that I think is really quite interesting, something that's consistent with what we're seeing with the research that we're doing with Mayo Clinic right now, is two of the top predictors for early signs of alcohol dependence is family history and the home environment. And so those are things that, again, in a healthcare setting, may not be something that's immediately red flagging physicians or care teams, but it is something that holds a lot of weight in at least the predictive models that we've started to develop. And so what I think typically happens, especially with excessive alcohol consumption, substance use, and behaviors, is there's a certain aspect that's intrinsic. It's always like the nature versus like learned environment.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two aspects I really think is where half of it may be coming from your own body and what your own tolerance is and what you're experiencing within your own health, and there's another half which is more psychosocial behaviors and patterns of behaviors that we pick up from our environment and those around us. And so I think that's really the dynamic at play is just things to consider when we're thinking about building this insight and awareness.
So, Cynthia, just thinking about awareness, and did you get a chance to look at his app? Oh, no. Yeah. He kind of blew my mind, and I'm sitting over here trying to process and absorb. To just sit here with him and let him share the knowledge of where he is and where he's going is phenomenal. It is the dream. The dream he had and the passion and the drive behind what he is doing is a game changer, in my opinion. When you start to look at where we are as a society when it comes to alcohol and behavior, he is looking at how the consumption and the behavior and the next step and how it affects everybody. And I think no one, even in the medical field, really, they weren't looking at this. And when you talk about a disease, you know, there's research and everybody wants to try to figure out how we're going to cure it. Nobody really thought about how you can be more aware. And I think that's what you're doing, is making sure people were aware. Don't you have a kit that you can get on Amazon or?
Yeah. So we've got, so firstly, we have the app. It's connected to this Bluetooth breathalyzer as well. So it's in the spirit of being able to track in a more measurable and objective way. One thing to your point, what we've seen, or at least early on, talking to a lot of the healthcare systems, is we didn't just need to build awareness in patients or individuals. We also needed to build awareness in providers and administrators, because this is something that's very stigmatized. It's especially in a lot of behavioral health treatment and plans and pathways. We rely a lot on subjective data. And so what we want to be able to do is really bring more objective measures into practice, so that we can really all be looking at the same numbers and the same data, because ultimately that's how there's a lot of objectivity and there's a lot of clarity that can be driven when we look at things through that lens. I guess specifically in like healthcare, things are more, cost saving opportunities, right? But there are a lot of costs. But the problem is that we can't improve what we don't measure. And that's really where we need to drive a lot of clarity.
Can you say that one more time? That was so sexy. You said what?
We cannot improve what we don't measure.
Wow.
And right now we're not measuring the effect. We're not measuring how much we're drinking. We're not measuring the effects of drinking. And as a result, there's a lot of people that are struggling. And it's something that has been said through the tests of time. And that's really where I think there's a lot of opportunity to change. And that's where we need to drive a lot of visibility and awareness and insights. It's, again, not just to people struggling. I think it's also to families and the communities that are affected. I think it's very important. Yeah. And then also, yeah. No, I completely resonate with that, and again, I think that's where we're really falling short, and that's why we wanted to focus on delivering a solution to healthcare, because I think it's extremely important that we have a clinical standard uh, to be able to improve a disease state. I think oftentimes it gets swept under the rug because there's so much stigma attached to substance misuse, and it's, in traditional medical practice, it's maybe not seen the same for whatever reason as other disease states. But if you think about it, it's really a pattern of consumption. I mean, there's a lot of work being done in diabetes and obesity and weight loss, and that's a standard accepted medical practice. But with substance use, becomes a bit more taboo, and it gets a little bit more stigmatized. And that's really where I think we can do a lot of good in providing visibility, because exactly to your point, no one knows how much they're drinking and no one knows how much is too much. But it's not until something pretty consequential that happens that we actually decide to take action. And that's where I think we have a lot of opportunity to get ahead of.
So, when you start to think about trying to stay sober in your program, is that something specifically that you guys are working on, doing research, or is that part of your health, ethoshealth.io?
So for us, it's really important that we help our users and patients and even providers set tangible goals and then reach those goals. Because again, one thing that we've come to understand is that abstinence isn't always an achievable option for individuals that are taking their first steps. And to sustain behavior change, it's very important for us to meet individuals where they're at. For us, we just really want to be a medium of information to almost like a mirror to just reflect back, based off the patterns of behavior that are being reported. This is what your overall health could look like. And we want to be able to empower individuals to be able to take action upon themselves with that information, because I strongly believe that information is power when distilled down in the right way.
Mm.
And that's all that I really feel our goal is at the end of the day, is to be able to give insights about our own bodies back to the people that we serve, so they can take action and take sustained action towards making better decisions for themselves.
Cynthia, do you have any questions? Does Trey have something to say? Perfect. 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 I'm so impressed and I'm so pleased. I want to thank you for coming in and hanging out with the Carters and being our surprise guest with Barack, who's talking about ethos, health, and I think that many people in our communities, whether you're in California or another community, there are many people that can benefit from understanding a little bit more about this particular subject, because it's a stigma that nobody really wants to talk about, and it affects everyone. My father was an alcoholic. My daughter's grandmother was an alcoholic, and it doesn't matter when you stop drinking, but if you start drinking again, you go right back to where you were. That's the one thing I'm trying to wrap my head around. You're still trying to get where you were the last time you drank, and it could have been 40 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, do you have any? Go. You've tried what? And it's not ever a good feeling on the back end coming back, but I'm so proud of you for at least acknowledging where you are and moving forward to try to stay on a better path for yourself. Because again, as history would tell you, that it's the behavior, and if you can focus on not being depressed and having that anxiety and taking the medication to deal with that, and focus on having more of a better outcome. And I'm trying to use these words because I'm sitting here with a scientist and a research like amazing guy. I just think for better growth, you just have to focus on what it is that's better for you, so you have a better life for you and your family. I appreciate it. I'm going to say a prayer for you that you'll keep on going in the right direction, because I do love you, and I am always here if you're ever needing someone to talk to. And if I'm not the one, you can call your godmother. She loved to talk. That was a joke. Okay, I know you go off to an AA meeting. I'm going to finish up with Barat, and I just want to say thank you for calling in. We appreciate it. Any wise words for? Any wise words before she hangs up?
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for, number one, sharing your story, Cynthia, and it's very great to be able to meet you. And as we continue to learn, I think for me, one thing I really wanted to actually share is that even on my own trajectory of growth and doing this entrepreneurial endeavor, I resonate a lot to the struggles that may come up internally that then get reflected externally, and I just wanted to quickly maybe share those four requisites of change that I think really helped me, because even this last year, 2024, was quite difficult for me, and there's a lot of maybe self-destructive patterns that I had to overcome. And so I just wanted to share one thing that my sales coach at the time shared with me, is that in order to enact behavior change, there's four requisites of change. The first is to release baggage. The second is to set a goal. The third is to take massive action, and the fourth is to maintain focus. And I thought that was something that honestly changed my life, and that's something that we want to impart with stuff that we're doing with Ethos, and I wanted to be able to share that with you too.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So thank you.
Perfect. All right, darling. We are hanging out with the Carters. It is a podcast. It is not in its infancy. We are on 34 episodes and we are killing it. Yes, don't forget to subscribe, listen, and share. Share, because what we have to say is very important. And I want to say hi to my grandson who just loves his Gigi. And the next time she has a new toy, she's gonna sit. I know you don't. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Because I know he really does love me. Unless I have a toy, he'll talk to me. If I have a toy, he'll talk. All right. Anyway, having a great time sitting here in the studio talking to Barack of, oh my goodness, ethoshealth.io. That's what we're doing. And I'm just so grateful. I do have two more questions and I'm gonna let you go. Okay. What is your superpower and what is your kryptonite? I know you're like, oh my
All right,
God,
let me
you
think
hit me
about
with the
this.
one
Yeah,
or
yeah.
two.
All right, let's see.
You think about it. You
Yeah,
want to think
all
about
right, let me think.
it. So sometimes the superpower for me is the ability to engage with individuals no matter what level they are. Just that's my superpower. My kryptonite. Sometimes I talk too much.
Yeah, no, I think so. For me, I don't know how to really describe this one, but my mom is this very intuitive person. It's like a sixth sense. It's like one of those mom's intuition type of situation, and I think she kind of passed some semblance of that down to
Mhm.
me because I get these like I get these like visions or something that just gives me like, oh, this is the path I need to take. And I'm really inspired by my mom. I just want to quickly add because it's during these crazy times that she really helps guide me and help me listen to myself. Like what she really does is helps to empower me to better express who I truly am. And so I'm very inspired by my mom. And so to a certain degree, I guess she is my superpower, but I think I got some of her intuition too.
Oh my God, that is amazing. First of all, I have to give a shout out to Rajenda. That is my girl. You know, a lot of people don't know. I've known her for, I don't know, I want to say over 20 years. And her and I'm so proud of her. She started on this journey of doing some women's work, and she's got Women in Bloom that I just attended last week. And I'm so grateful because from that, I started meditating more in the morning. And I always take a minute to take a deep breath. And I will never forget what I learned in those 8 hours. And it was powerful, it was impactful. And it's International Women's Day coming up on March 8th. If you do nothing else, spend some time with yourself and get to know yourself and remember how important you are to you, because without you being taking some time to focus on yourself, you cannot focus on anything else. And Rajender, I will always be grateful for what you've been bringing to my life and to some of the friends that I've met, that I've brought to Women in Bloom. And we've had five we've had 5 encounters, conferences. I want to call them conferences. That's what they are to me, where you've brought the women together. I will never forget what you've embarked on. And um, keep going, because I will continue to support you. It's amazing. And I'm on my own journey, and you've given me a lot of insight and strength.
Thank you. My mom is the absolute best, and yeah, and then just to finish, I guess my kryptonite. Like sometimes I tend to go on some monologues, once I get really passionate about something. So I gotta like people keep me in check now, so I'm getting more concise with my language. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Yeah.
To be at this stage in your life where you are, it is so um, inspiring to see, to watch. I can't imagine what you'll be doing five. People are like, what do you want to do in 5 years? Where you are right now is just phenomenal. Like in my mind, I'm watching this growth of where you are. And I have to say that when your mom called me, I don't know, last year, 2 years ago, and she's like, hey, my kids want to meet with you. And I'm like, why? They want to meet with me. I didn't get it. But she reminded me that I'm a connector and I have so many relationships. I don't even know. I didn't realize the amount of connections that I had, and I hadn't really honed in on it. And that's one of the things that I really am passionate about now, making sure I stay connected and that I can connect the right people with the right people, because it is a passion for me to to also engage with the younger generation to bring them up where they need to be. Even though my grandson could give two craps about me because I have structure, right? I have to make you go to bed. You have to sit down and eat. You have to say good morning. I think it's important for people to understand that we are all in this together, and having opportunities like this to sit down and talk to someone with the knowledge that you have. I mean, the fact that you got an app, I could actually go on and download your app. I downloaded the app. I think I'm getting a newsletter now. If there's anything you'd like the listeners to know, what would you want them to know, and what could they walk away, and how can they find you? I know that was a lot. I should have did it one at a time.
No, I think firstly, I just want to say, going back to that moment, Denise, that was something that it may have been like a small moment in time, but it was actually a great opportunity to have been able to come here and sit down with you, upon like my mom's referral and whatnot. But the fact that you gave me and my sister at that time, like the time of day, and heard us out and let us, express what we were doing, and you took that same level of passion and help connect us with people, that meant the world to us, because it's those little moments in time that really keep that spark and that light going. And so I'm just, number one, want to say I'm very grateful for you even inviting me here back again today. The one thing I would love to be able to share with everyone is, this is something that I'm on my own personal journey of growth for, and it's something that I'm continuing to learn. But I legitimately believe that all of the power that we desire, may want, and the aspirations and the goals that we may have, everything that we need is already within us. And it's when we let go of the things that are no longer serving us, that are holding us back from becoming the person that we envision of who we can be. It's those moments that allow us to fully flourish, in my opinion. And I'm on this journey of growth right now, and my goal with this whole company is to be able to share that same light with everyone else.
That's fantastic. So, is this something, if someone was interested in this, I'm assuming they can go to the app and find out more. Is it expensive to get involved? I don't know. I'm wondering, just, is it something that's paid for insurance? I'm just curious. I figure we should at least tap into that. How is this covered, I guess?
Absolutely. So we have two offerings, you could say. One is for the everyday social drinker, individuals who are curious about exploring their relationship with alcohol. And so that's our app that's available through the App Store. So you would simply search Ethos Health Mindful Consumption, and that will be the app to download, and you can start tracking and getting insights about your relationship with alcohol immediately. Right now, we're focused on health system delivery. And so we're working directly with healthcare administrators, particularly in the behavioral health space. So we've started some engagements with a number of different health systems, and we're also looking now into health plans to be able to address a lot of the cost implications towards excessive alcohol consumption, thinking about ways that we can reduce readmissions back to the hospital, ER admissions together, being able to refer individuals earlier to treatment so that we can reduce a lot of downstream chronic disease progression. So individuals in the healthcare space, whether health systems or health plans, that's also how we're delivering our platform as well.
I can't wait till this is ready, and I'm going to start texting it to a few physicians that I know. They should have never gave me their cell phone number, but because I think sometimes we often associate, like, like wine. You have one glass of wine and it's good for your heart, which a cardiologist would recommend, not knowing the behavior. One drink might not be enough. And so I just love the fact that we were able to sit down, and I'd love for you to come back and just give us some more, because this topic is more than just the time we have now. I just think there's so much more, and I love the fact that we were able to dig in, and the fact that we were able to find a caller to call in and share their story. I'd like to have another podcast with you here and have other people call in and tell their story. And maybe that is a platform to help you continue with your research of what would be beneficial for people that are out there, that are struggling, that are not afraid to talk about it. Because most of the time, people, when they wake up from that drunk, they're like, oh God, please help me. How about Ethos Health? Please help me. You know what I mean? Because I think that would at least help them understand what they're going through, and they're not alone.
Absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing, is oftentimes just being able to extend your arm in some layer of support, and just being able to have that first conversation, because that can be a big step And that first step is always the one that can get the ball rolling. And so I'll be more than happy and very grateful for any other opportunity, Denise.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. You're listening to Hanging Out with the Carters. We drop a brand new episode every week. I'm so grateful. My producer always tells me, don't talk too much, Denise, but I love talking too much. I am Denise Carter. I also am a comedian. You can find me on YouTube as well as Instagram and Facebook, comedian Denise Carter, or Hanging Out with the Carters. I am so pleased. I'm so excited. I'm so grateful for the time that we were able to spend together. And, shout out to your sister. I'm not gonna butcher it. It starts with a K. Kavita. Hey, thank you. You looked amazing Saturday. I did. I jumped in a picture. I photobombed and she was right there, and I loved it. So it's just good to see you guys on the trajectory that you're on. And again, Hanging Out with the Carters is a podcast, and we're grateful. And I'm very excited. This was amazing. And with that said, I'm going to close it out. So just remember, next week we'll have another episode for you. And thanks for hanging out with the Carters. Bye. See you next week.
Perfect. Good job.
Oh,
That was
thank you.
like, oh my God, that was freaking amazing.